Welcome everyone to nRhythm's live information session on the 2022 nRhythm Fellowship. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us. I know we're about to head into the holidays. My name is Tay Lottie. I am joining this call from Boulder, Colorado, and am a member of the nRhythm team. We have a few other nRhythm team members here. We have Tracy Wallace, Tre Cates, and our presenter, Tre Cates. So today we're just going to share a little bit more information about nRhythm's 2022 fellowship and create space to answer any questions you all may have. And for those of you who may not be familiar with us and what we do at nRhythm, nRhythm is a design and management firm focused on revealing potential in people as we focus on health of the entire ecosystem of an organization and its networks. So we work with organizations, networks, communities, and individuals, offering a range of support from one-on-one and operational design and management support to many digital do-it-yourself tools, workbooks, and online courses and programs, just like this fellowship program, that can really help you begin the necessary shifts in mindsets and behaviors that are the foundation for adopting a more regenerative approach to work and life. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Tre, the founding partner of nRhythm, to take it away today.
Thank you, Tay, and welcome everyone. As some of you I know and I've seen before, some of you are new faces, but we're just very appreciative of you spending a few minutes with us and talking through what this fellowship program that we're launching in 2022 is going to look like. And then opening it up to questions that some of you may have as we dive into this together. Before we jump into that, I do want to say that we've had incredible interest. And it's actually it was surprising to a lot of us that there was as much interest as there was in us doing this. So we're excited to say that I think we're going to, at least at this point, feel pretty comfortable that all the spots that we're going to have available to work with people are going to get filled as we get into this. So we're hoping this will help answer questions for those that are kind of sitting on the fence a little bit, deciding if they want to submit an application or not, and provide as much information as possible for you to be excited about what this opportunity entails. Before I jump into my presentation, one of the things that I think it would be good to do is just ground a lot of what we're going to talk about in the fellowship program in the work that we do. So I'm going to be backing us into a little bit of why would we have this fellowship program in the first place? And how does it fit into the overall strategy that nRhythm has? For us, it's not about offering new programs so that we can have new engagement just for the sake of engagement. It's actually about really systems change and doing it with this kind of living systems mindset or behaviors. And so kind of the work that we're about doing is really encouraging that kind of shift. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump into that. And some of this for you who've done it before is going to be a little bit of a review. And for some of you who have not heard this or seen this before, this may give you even deeper insight into why we're doing what we do. So when we think about the Fellows program, a couple of words come to mind for me, and that is, well, that just jumped really fast, so sorry about that, is this idea of regenerative capacity for community impact. For us, the Fellows is really a community-based fellowship that allows us to bring people from all over the world together, talking about ways that they can become real practitioners and influencers of systems change in the areas that they're most involved. And that can be locally in a organization. It could be in a community where you are engaged in civic or policy making, and it can be all the way to just you as an individual wanting to be an activist or a proponent for change in lots of different systems, from a network to even particular projects. So with that in mind, one of the things that we want to talk about on the webinar today is, so what's the problem and the solution that we're suggesting, and how does this fellowship fit into it? A little bit about nRhythm, and then this application process, and then we'll just open it up for discussion. When we think about the issues that we're all trying to address, in particular, we really are trying to shift a particular way for us to design within an organization. When we think about the current state of organizations, by the way, my presentation is going crazy on me here. It is fast forwarding substantially. I'm not sure what, there we go. So how much time does the average person spend in an organization? In particular, we're talking about 90 hours, or 1/3 of someone's life. So when we think about the Fellows Program, when we think about the work we're doing, it's about helping organizations and individuals recognize that there's something powerful about rethinking this time. And in particular, we think that the opportunity to impact that across communities can really be done well when we think about it in that small, medium-sized business or organization. And when we think about the current state of organizations, we also recognize that we can either approach this with this idea of, is it a regenerative or a degenerative state? And we're really seeing that through the lens of health and potential. When we see organizations, we see it as a reflection of what is alive. And if it's alive, is it degenerating or regenerating the health of that current system? So in particular, there are some things that I think are indicators that we see in the world that surrounds us that give us insight into our current design. One of those particular things is this recognizing in particular engagement rates. Gallup is a great researcher around recognizing there is something about our current design that is not new. It's actually been the case for most of what we know as the industrialized revolution. But the idea that most people are disengaged in the workplace, and that disengagement in most instances in the US in particular has measured to be over $500 million or $500 billion worth of disengagement cost associated with that, because of what would be determined as inefficiencies in those current systems. But it's not just limited to disengagement. It's also recognizing that generationally, there's some real issues and challenges associated with what engagement looks like. And that engagement also is how we see just even the idea of how it works across all our industrial designs, some of the environmental degradation, some of our economic inequalities, and even equity. As we think about diversion, inclusion, and equity, we recognize that diversity is a key indicator that we should be paying attention to when we think about the problems that we're challenged with. So we see this as a substantial design issue. And the design issue in particular is recognizing that our current system is more a reflection of a machine than it is a living system. And that really has been seen in how we communicate and design around it, from organizations as machines, schools and economies as machines, and even the human body as a machine. And that shows up in our language, and it begins to even show up in some of our satires, how we communicate to, the people around us, what is actually going on. It really is a reflection of a deep-seated design that has infiltrated all aspects of our society. when we think about nRhythm and nRhythm's work, we think about how we can create community around these problems and be able to create resources both for individuals, for organizations, and for larger communities for the purposes of shifting some of what has become problematic in the unintended consequences of this kind of design. So when you think about a machine is a structure that uses power to apply forces, to apply force and control movement to perform an intended action. When we think about that, we also recognize that when we replace one word, it actually resonates for a lot of people, that we've typically used an organization as a structure that uses power to apply forces and control movement to perform an intended action. So for us, it's about shifting some of that design to address what is really destructive and dysfunctional in most organizations. So when we apply that design, it really begins to become clearer to us that most of the design that we have when we apply it to organizations is about engineering best practices, which enforces these prescriptive structures. And it really is about to control an environment. And why? Because for the most part, we recognize that the one measure in most organizations is productivity and output. And knowing that organizations are designed with productivity and output in mind, it really is something that's significantly different than what we see as a living system. So what does it look like for us to have a different approach in mind where productivity and output isn't the only measure? So when we think about that approach, we then move to this idea of recognizing life as a metaphor versus a machine as a metaphor. And in particular, we have really dove deeply into the work of Maturana and Varela at the Santiago School. And that is a couple of researchers that began to actually see life through this holistic systems lens. And that it allowed us begin to recognize that most of our reductionist and in particular current scientific method approach, which is appropriate and needed in some instances, was not serving us when we think about life and what is complex. And so in particular, they examined all kinds of incredible things and began to discover that really life itself is not really designed the way a machine is designed. And actually, they coined this incredible term called autopoiesis, which is this idea of self-poetry. And that was really a reflection of what life is. And when we think about organizations and complex systems like nature, in essence, that is life. Life and complexity are one and the same. And so for us, it was really recognizing, and they began to see that life really was this organized system capable of maintaining itself within a boundary of its own making. And so when we talk about regeneration, it actually is equal to this idea of living. And that there were some principles that they recognized in particular. One was it's not located in any one place. It's dependent on all the interconnected relationships. It was holistic, and that all of the different aspects of that system were actually autopoietic in themselves. They actually were wholes within wholes. And these principles we've developed, holism, interdependence, uniqueness, evolutionary, nodal, and developmental, have all come out of this work where we recognize and see patterns that exist in living systems that we think are more appropriate to design around than the typical principles we would see or measures we would see in a mechanistic system. And so even the great designer Buckminster Fuller said this: work with life-centered principles and the universe pitches in to help. And that's really kind of the essence of our approach. What can we do to design around life, utilizing these principles as a means to be in rhythm with life versus out of rhythm with it? And so we believe we need a new kind of design and framework. And as a part of that new design and framework, we also believe we need to continue to create communities and engagements and connections with people who are all committed to helping bring this kind of approach to life. And so for us, we recognize a couple of things that are really different about our approach. One is we really engage in this idea of health. When you think about the mechanistic system, as I said, you measure two things, productivity and efficiency. When you think about a living system, the only thing you're really paying attention to is the conditions that you need to create for health in that system. And that's very different than how we approach most organizational design or projects or networks or even communities. What does it look like for health to be the main measure, not productivity and efficiency? And it doesn't mean that productivity and efficiency aren't measures worth paying attention to. It's just most of those measures come at the expense of something. And what we want is to ensure that it doesn't come at the expense of the health of the system. So we really began to look at what it looks like to create conditions for health so that we can then imagine a state of abundance in that system that really will sustain ourselves, our families, our communities, and the world that we live in currently. When we think about a living systems approach, it really has a very different posture. We see this as something that is informed by principles, as I was talking about. We facilitate conditions around these flexible frameworks, and that when we apply it to a complex system can regenerate the health of the system. And in particular, when we think about these kinds of designs, we recognize that we begin to reframe the whole idea of an organization. Organization now is a living system capable of maintaining itself within a boundary of its own making, where we believe abundance and resilience are recurring outcomes of that underlying health. Now, what's interesting is when you take this machine design and contrast it to this living systems design, one requires an enormous amount of energy because it needs inputs like every machine does. But a living system actually needs less energy because it's self-maintaining, right? It's self-regenerating. And what we do is begin to support communities in that shift from that mechanistic system to this regenerative one. And we are looking for the fellowship program and other communities that we're a part of creating and being engaged in as supporting those shifts. So now I just asked this question. When we think about the communities that you want to be a part of, or which one is for you? An organization, which is a structure that uses power to apply forces and control movement to perform an intended action, or an organization, which we've just described, which is a living system within a boundary of its own making, where abundance and resilience are recurring outcomes of its underlying health. As you guys know, we prefer the one on the right-hand side. And so that right there gives you a sense of the why. Our organization, the work we do is all about supporting a big shift, a shift in individuals, a shift in organizations, a shift in communities, in larger networks. And we've had the pleasure of doing this on 6 continents with individuals and organizations that are desirous of being change makers in all those different places. And for some of you that have heard this before, it's a good review. For some of you who haven't, I just wanted you to understand that when we think about our fellowship program, it's really rooted in this work. It's rooted in these problems. It's rooted in these approaches. And this is really what we're trying to do, is to continue to support an emergence of practitioners that really are excited about saying, now, how do we really do this? We often talk about operationalizing regeneration and this idea of bringing life to these systems. And that's what we're all about. And we're excited about being able to pour ourselves into a community of people that are excited about doing it for themselves, for the organizations they're a part of, and the systems that they're trying to change. So that gives you a little bit of a grounding around our work. Now, one of the things I wanted to also talk about is just a little bit about us. So in Rhythm, we use that framework I just laid out is a framework we use internally in all our work. So I just thought it would be good for you guys to know a little bit about us in trying to decide why you would spend the next 12 months with us really working to support this kind of mission and this purpose. So when we think about our context, in particular nRhythm's purpose, we talk about how we want to reimagine how we work in a way that releases unlimited potential while being in rhythm with life so that all individuals, teams, organizations, networks, and communities experience abundance and resilience now and into the future. So for us, this is deeply rooted in a change that we think could be transformational and to bring life back in to an area of our lives that at times we've kind of siloed or segregated. But this is the purpose that you guys would be participating in and enhancing. And then we talked about the quality of life that we want together while we're doing this. And this is a really important thing for us. So as you become a part of our community, and some of you already are, we think about the systems that we're about influencing, how it was going to enhance our individual and collective quality of life. And that can be a really empowering experience. So we desire a quality of life that is fun and adventurous and alive. We thrive as individuals and as a team because of our freedom, flexibility, and shared life experiences. We actualize our full potential. We bring our whole selves and value the intimacy and support from trusted relationships. We are thoughtful and intentional in our long-term approach. We are committed to living with integrity in all our words and actions, and our communication is soaked in honor and respect. Our individual genius inspires us to engage wholly by offering our gifts and voices to the world. We use our individual imperfections to create collective brilliance and allow space for emergence. We will be generous and inspire future generations to be in rhythm with all of life. So as you guys participate in this fellowship program, we believe you will enhance our quality of life. And we hope we'll bring an enhancement to your quality of life as a part of that. We also commit to these behaviors, and I'll let you read them, but I'll read the words: to be self-aware, to be honorable, to be non-judgmental, to be generous, to be grateful, to be courageous, and to be playful. Those things are important to us. We actually pay attention to them and talk about them regularly. And we also recognize that we're not doing this alone. We're doing this as a result of many people over through many different lineages and through many years of work that we're building upon. So when we think about our supporting environment within Rhythm being one of the nested systems, we have partners that are really supporting the work we're doing. We're building a network of regenerative organizations that are deeply diving into how you operationalize this work. And we're building a community of practitioners. And we also know that we have colleagues out there that are doing this in all kinds of different ways, and we respect and honor that. And then we also recognize there are other change agents who want the systems that we're a part of to change. And that change needs to happen, but they may have a different approach. For us, it's about living systems and regeneration. And we see our need to support all of these different nested systems in our work together as an organization. Now, our health is as important as anybody else's. And so we've developed what we call the Organizational Health Index that measures our internal health. And that's one of the things we'll all get the opportunity to be a part of if you join and are part of the fellowship program, which is this idea of being able to measure and understand what health means in the context of a organization. And I just thought I'd share our organizational health index in rhythms, the design things that we're working on, the health that we're working on, how we see receptivity and our trending. Right now, as an organization, in Rhythm in particular, we recognize that it's important to work on things that are not really serving us very well. So right now, it's a little bit on structures and communication as a part of our current strategies. And that we measure this over time as a means to continue to inform that productivity and efficiency isn't the measure that tells us that we're behaving and acting in a way that's healthy. So we want to ensure the context, structures, and work that we're designing around is bringing life to us, and that the health that we're creating as a part of our environment is something that increases energy, allows for better decision-making, develops deep partnerships, and then opens up communication versus closes it down. And we recognize how important that is for us to be committed to that process as well. When we think about our current structures, we have our governance is shared leadership and decision making. There isn't any one person that makes any decision. We share it across the team. We value the ability for people to make decisions in the roles that they are responsible for, but recognize the need to share in decisions that impact and influence one another. We also have 6 full-time staff, 3 part-time staff. So just a little less, and we'll be growing this year. So we'll have probably 10 plus people as a part of the organization as we move forward. And it's really focused in a couple of key areas. Our client projects, in particular, some of the support we need to provide people, these products and programs, and then some of the research. And right now, our staff's completely virtual in the US and also in South Africa as a part of our work together. And our work is really based in a couple of different places. These educational programs, which we feel like is about capacity building, design services where we provide support, both strategic and functional, in organizations, trying to help them operationalize bringing life into the workplace. And then this idea of monitoring that we just showed you at the Organizational Health Index, providing the opportunity for individual and organizational health assessments. All of that, we then support organizations who want to bring scoped engagements into some operational contexts. And so we do a lot of projects in a lot of different industries and across a lot of different thoughts and in the concept of bringing regeneration into those areas. So the fellowship in particular, we see is an opportunity to create a diverse community dedicated to expanding the confidence and capacity to bring health and reveal potential in the world's systems that will usher in this idea of a regenerative future. And I just want to focus on a couple of those words. In particular, diversity. Our experience over the last few years has been there's an enormous amount of attention being brought to bringing life to all the different places that people are working. And in particular, even our last design lab, or last couple of design labs, it represented over 14 different countries and people who are interested in bringing work from rural communities all the way to urban areas. And so we desire this fellowship to be representative of that it wouldn't be surprising if someone from South Africa or New Zealand or Europe all the way down into South America and the United States are all working together in a community to bring life to the different communities that they're a part of. And we see this around capacity building. What does it look like to bring more capacity to those systems, and nRhythm playing a role to support that, so that health and revealing potential become part of the emphasis and the impetus for change? Because we believe the future is really relegated to our focus on health, and that health being designed in a way that can reveal the potential within the system. So that diversity, we believe, brings an enormous amount of insight, creativity, and also a lot of resilience. Because if when we look at a living system, we don't see a command and control design. We see something that's distributed. It's distributed across people and cultures and lots of different ways of being able to approach problems or opportunities. And we really are looking for the fellowship to embody that and to be able to bring this and then share it and be able to bring it to life and us be able to be a resource to supporting that emergence. In terms of the details, some of this is on the website, but things for you guys to consider as a part of this process. It's curated, meaning that we are looking for applications because we're really wanting to ensure that whoever applies and wants to be a part of this is something that is going to fit. So for instance, we've got lots of different time zones, we've got lots of different aspects of things, and we want to make sure that whatever the design is, that's going to bring meaningful, ongoing learning experiences to the people that are a part of it. And we're confident we can do that. But it's all about bringing, everybody together on a journey to allow for that regenerative capacity to show up as a practitioner. This is not really just educational for us, especially this program in particular. It really is, what does it look like for you to become practitioners of regeneration in all your different fields? And we don't see regeneration being limited to things that would traditionally highlight that as a part of the work, from agriculture to medical sciences. We actually see regeneration as needed in any and all living systems, which is everything that humanity is a part of. This is designed for anyone. It could be an entrepreneur, a coach, it could be an activist, a change maker, concerned citizen, and even CEOs or senior management in organizations. Someone who says, I'm going to actually bring this to life in areas that are important to me. The other thing is as a part of this process, there are many programs that nRhythm brings to life. We've got what we call the Design Lab, and the Design Lab allows people to bring some kind of project to a design process that allows us to take regeneration and inform something that needs to be designed in an organization or in a project. And in particular, we want to take that same design idea into the fellowship. You're going to have the ability to participate in the leadership program that we do, in the design labs that we do, in the design leadership practices that we have, and any and all things that we launch and bring to life in 2022. We want to bring all these tools to you as practitioners as a means to be able to put that to work in your place, which means you get, just like we have with bringing the group together, curate your journey in all this. You actually design your engagement. You may say, hey, I'm going to do the design lab this month, or I may do it in a couple of months. You'll have the opportunity to be able to do that across all 12 months. And that, we think, will bring forth a vision for you and for the community that you're a part of that I think can be quite transformational. We do have an investment in this, as you guys probably already saw on the website, but we will and do want to make it flexible, and we are also offering scholarships for those who can't afford it. Our ability to have some exchange in this allows us to be able to offer scholarships and be able to put as much a resource to it as we can. But we are also being able to provide it in a way that we feel like is incredibly generous and cost effective for having access to all these different materials, from access to the team, to access to these programs, and the ability to connect with people across the U.S. And that then shows up, as we have here, is all these different things that we think are real incredible benefits to the program. And imagine it as a personal incubator, ability for you to incubate an idea, a project, your personal life, but all really nested in the idea of a system that you would like to influence and change. And that's really kind of the energy we want you to bring into it. But it will provide you the opportunity to meet regularly with people as a part of the fellowship, with the nRhythm team, be able to build more connections and support, and then be able to customize your engagement in a way that can really be woven within, if you're working in an organization, you're a student, and or you just want to be able to invest in yourself in the future that you hold dear. When we think about some of the expectations, it really is what we're looking for is someone who is really open to and excited about trying to and a desire to design a real change in the system that they're a part of. We obviously would want people to feel aligned with the principles that we just laid out, and that you feel like that those are a good reflection of things that would help inform your design. That you'd be active in creating a project or operating within an organization or being able to really put this to work. Again, as I said earlier, this is really not meant to be just educational. It really is, how do we turn this into a work of a practitioner? And then how do we have capacity, or do we have capacity to engage in shifting this? So instead of just seeing it as a means to do the work we're doing, is it an opportunity to be able to really influence and create the change we want in the world? And that we're looking for creating ambassadors, change makers that are active members of our community, and that will be willing to help collaborate with us even on how we improve the fellowship program and any of the other programs that we're offering to the world that we think will support the transition that we're all wanting. So I'm going to pause there. That was a lot of information, and I apologize as it was a lot in a very short period of time. But that is really the essence of what nRhythm's why is, what nRhythm, the organization, is doing, and what is meaningful to the organization, and how the fellowship program nests within all that. And so with that, I'm going to pause to see, I know there are a couple of chats, comments that probably have been shared along the way, and just wanted to open it up to see what questions or reflections people may have in reference to what's been presented.
Hey, Trey, when you first started talking, there were a bunch of slides that were kind of advancing quickly. Will we get a copy of this deck? There's some interesting data in there. I would love to read more.
Yes, absolutely. And okay, we'll also send you a recording of this and even a recording of some of that information being presented in a way where the slides didn't zoom past everybody. So I'd be happy to send that along too. So thank you, Keely. Other questions?
Hello, my name is Torsten, and I have a question. We just received a grant reward, and our project is about creating a development narrative for our region, Grey Bruce. Sounds kind of abstract, but we all are the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And so the current development narrative is open for growth, literally by the government. And what is happening is our landscape is developing horribly, randomly, uncontrolled, and without any healthy landscape design considerations. And so what we try to do is develop a proactive narrative which then will allow proactive management. Right now, we're only doing reactive management that's being pushed because we don't know where we're going. And our only goal is money. So while I'm not working in an organization per se, we are trying to build a network around basically regenerating. The project is called Regenerate Grey Bruce. So it's about regenerating this landscape as an entity and aligning different organizations in this area. And is that a fit for your organization? Because you seem to be very much focused on organizations internally, and I'm more interested in a loose network and landscape health. But landscape, I mean, in a First Nation sense, our personal health depends on the relations we have, and all of those relations we build depends on our relationship to the land and our home. And if we don't have a home because we are basically we cut the ties to the land, then all the relations fall apart. So this is really targeted to rebuilding this relationship to land as a first step to rebuild many other relationships. I kind of think it's a good fit, but it's not a perfect fit. So can you reflect on that, please?
Sure. Thank you, Thurston. Actually, this work is deeply rooted in a landscape view. So when we think about systems, we don't see them siloed. So from the individual to the individuals a part of its communities, and those being a part of natural systems that we have chosen not to support and be in rhythm with over time. And actually, the work of nRhythm and my work over the last decade has been deeply rooted in land restoration. And that actually is what informed this work. We recognize that for us to be able to restore landscapes globally, and I had the opportunity to do that in over 50 countries, that it is as a result of how we then collectively make decisions together. And those decisions deeply rooted in those natural landscapes, the social systems that we're a part of, and how we design them. And so for us, it really has been all about that as a means to regenerate. So regeneration isn't just about regenerating soil. It's about regenerating those social fabrics as a part of the process, because it's those institutions that actually influence what happens on the land. And so for us, it's all of that together. And this fellowship program and other ones that we actually influence and are a part of are about that. For us, it's about any systems boundary that's landscape, that's watersheds, that includes industries and or designs that we are needing to break down traditional silos as a means to inform a different approach. So I think there is incredible amount of symbiosis between what you're saying and what we'll be doing. I think it's Susanna. Is that right? Yes.
I wanted to first commend you for your work and thank you for this invitation. I see myself as an agent for consciousness, and I've been involved at multiple levels of teaching. I'm an artist, I'm a writer. I also work with a nonprofit organization in San Francisco. I lived in Berkeley for many years, so I was around some of the formative stewards of your work, namely Fritjof Capra as my neighbor and so on. So I'm wondering if is one of my many questions, obviously, if you could just give an example of what it would be like to go with this year-long program. I mean, it seems like you're suggesting that a month would be dedicated to this, a month would be dedicated to that. So can you give an example of what it would be like for working in the design lab for a month? What kind of interaction do we have with those resources and tools that you're providing.
Yes, absolutely. Great question, and thank you. So there'll be multiple things that you'll have the opportunity. The Design Lab runs every other month, so it'll be available 6 times throughout 2022. And the intention is that in that you are to bring a project and or an organization or an intention that you would design around. Typically in those design labs, there are 4 weeks with 2 sessions per week of where we step the entire participants through a process to help them design for an outcome that they have in mind. And that outcome is to do it with regeneration in mind. So it's using these frameworks, these principles as a means to do that. Typically, you'll find that there's anywhere between 5 to 10 organizations, and in total 35 to 50 people that will be doing that together. And usually that's representative and pretty diverse group of people in all kinds of different industries and cultures that's participating in that.
So we're there to problem solve, and the assistance with that is presenting the problem we feel that we have, and then you then hook us up with the person or tools.
Yeah, so all of this, because of COVID, has been virtual. So we have a whole design process online. We'll use tools like Mural and others to actually step you through a design process of where we'll be leading you and then you'll be working. So imagine it like a woodworking shop. We show up, we give you the tools, you bring a piece of wood, and you're going to start carving and creating something, and we're helping you to do that. And you'll be in conversation with others who are doing similar things or very different things, but you're all still kind of making something. And the intention is to provide that space. We do the Design Labs, one example of that. We have the leadership program that you'll be able to participate in that will be offered multiple times throughout the year. Also focused inwardly on who do we need to be as leaders in these movements and these transitions and these shifts. And then that's offered multiple times. The one thing is we've noticed that people will do these sessions or the leadership program and the Design Lab multiple times because they may want to bring something different to design, or they want to focus on some different other aspect of leadership as a part of this, or build more connection with different people. So the opportunity is to provide that. We'll curate it, provide opportunities for you and for others to be able to help you design what that journey may be for those 12 months. And
So
those as well as through individual one-on-ones.
Is this actually tech support for working with visual design practices, diagrams, and
It will be both for providing you technical support for the tools that we're providing, in addition to anything that we can do to support you in some of the concepts that you may be bringing, and you're trying to bring that to life. But we're really trying to do that within the community, as well as providing one-on-one support when necessary or needed. Great questions. Thank you. Other questions? Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, I think we have a few minutes. I'm going to share my screen again and let Tay just kind of take it in terms of just reminding us kind of what the process is from this point on. And again, sorry for the technical difficulties. I'll make sure I'll get all this out to you. But here is a little bit about the current application information and then the process. So Tay, do you want to cover that?
Yeah, thanks so much, Trey. We just wanted to make sure these dates are front and center for you all. So applications are due by January 3rd. Fellows will be notified by January 10th, whether they have or have not been chosen. And then enrollment for the 2022 fellowship closes on January 13th. And we have our first orientation on January 21st. So wanted to make sure that was front and center, and just another reminder too, that we have 25 open spots and 5 of those will be scholarship based if that is a need. Once you jump into the fellowship application, you'll see where you fill out information if you're requesting a scholarship. And if anyone has any more follow-up questions, we're here and available to answer them. You can feel free to shoot an email to team@nrhythm.co to set up a one-on-one or just to get any more questions answered via email. Yeah. So with that, we'll go ahead and close. As Trey said, we're going to be following up with you all with this recording and a link to these presentation slides for more information. And we look forward to seeing your applications.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Trey.